Look, today's the AFC East episode. I'm really excited about this division for a few reasons. One, all four teams are good. I mean, this is another situation kind of like the AFC North that we covered where like it's going to be really tough to kind of, reliably predict where each of these teams are going to end up to end the season. And not only that, but Patriots are probably going to, finish towards the bottom of the division. The Jets are potentially going to finish towards the top of the division. That's something that division hasn't seen in, a couple decades. So it's pretty interesting because it's a new era in this division as well, with it being very competitive.
In a 20-year span of Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, Patriots domination, where no one came close to topping them in that division, all of a sudden, within the last couple of years, we've seen more and more competition with Brady exiting, right? And I think that just shows you the greatness of Tom Brady, because Bill Belichick's still there. But that Patriots team never was even close to losing that division, really.
Yeah.
And the entire time they were there. And now you have 4 teams that could win it. I mean, 4 teams flat out. If any of these 4 teams won the division, it wouldn't surprise me, really.
Right.
Like, there are 4 good teams, like you said. There's not many divisions in the NFL that have all 4 teams competing for the top spot, legitimately.
It's kind of like Tomlin-esque, where Belichick's never going to coach a bad team, and the Patriots will always be competitive. But you are right; that era of just complete dominance seems to have concluded, right? And will Belichick have like a team that goes in the playoffs or deep into the playoffs without Tom Brady? To be determined. I think, and we'll kind of get into this, because there's a little less film to watch on the Patriots side of things than some of the other teams. And honestly, I think a huge problem is his coaching philosophy and how, for the longest time, he's kind of been able to get away with, we'll do it whatever, Patriot way. Guys on our roster don't matter. The guys on the coaches don't matter. We're gonna get it done. Doing my best to channel his monotone, grumpy old man voice here.
He's one of the only guys more monotone than both you and I. Like, he's the most monotone person of all time.
I mean, dude, press conferences, he's just like, what do you want me to say? Like,
which he rules press conferences. I actually love his.
Good. But it's interesting because we've talked about this too. We don't think that style of coaching, in the modern NFL, you can get away with it anymore. So
you have to adapt or you die. It's just, I've said it before. You adapt or you die. We've seen stubborn coaches. For example, Mark D'Antonio, Michigan State had a great run, years of beating Michigan, years of competing with Ohio State, years of being, they were in the college football playoff, right? Like, they were one of the best teams in the country, and he had to exit because he refused to turn on his loyal assistant coaches. When they weren't getting the job done, it was, hey, get new assistant coaches that are more updated with how the offensive world is changing, or lose. And they started to lose, and he refused to fire everybody and start fresh. So he ended up stepping down. Belichick's kind of the same way. Like, last year, we'll get into this more with some film and stuff, but last year he refused to go outside of his network to bring in maybe an offensive mind that would benefit Mac Jones. Instead, they bring in Matt Patricia, who doesn't have much offensive experience, let alone calling plays. Which
that play did not go very well for the Patriots.
Calling offensive football, you have to be 3 steps ahead at all times.
Yeah.
It is one of the most challenging things. I've been around football my whole life, and I just in the last few seasons, when I got into coaching, started to have a role. I'm not solely calling the plays either. Like, it's not only on my shoulders, but having even a little bit of a role in, hey, we should call this here, we should call this here, is hard as hell, man. Because you got to know when to do it. You basically have to guess right. You have to know how to adjust if you don't see the look that you were expecting to see. You have to know how to build it around the personnel that you have, which changes every week. It's really, really hard to do. And if you don't have experience and you think you're just going to jump in and do it at the NFL, I don't know how Bill Belichick thought that would work.
Yeah. And again, I think it's because he's done similar shit like that in the past, and it did work. And it's a different era. Bills finishing at the top of the division, 13-3, right? They had that one game that was a forfeit because of the DeMar Hamlin. I don't know if you want to call that injury, on-field death and resurrection, whatever you want to call that. So they're one game short. Dolphins 9-8, wild card team. Started off really hot, went through kind of a midseason slump with Tua's injury, and then kind of came back enough to squeak into the playoffs. Patriots 8-9, and the Jets finishing last 7-10, which is honestly not reflective of how they played that season. Their defense was lights out, and their offense just really struggled to get it going, even though there was a lot of talent around it. And we'll dig into that in the film. Yeah, I mean, takeaways from last season, man, is that Dolphins are really, really, really freaking good when they have Tua on the field, and they were really struggling to find a backup that would get the job done outside of
the
Tua.
fact that they still made the playoffs, right, through everything that Miami had to deal with. First-year head coach, their starting quarterback getting several concussions in back-to-back weeks. The fact that they were even a wild card team, and the fact that they competed with Buffalo in that wild card matchup.
That's right.
It
Credit
just
to
shows you how
McDaniel for that.
competitive this division
Honestly.
is.
Yeah, and credit to McDaniel for that. Bills, they were obviously a powerhouse last year. I'm curious to see if they will be able to repeat that energy this year. I'm not super confident on that. And then Patriots, as we kind of discussed, right? Like they're struggling to adapt. I think we can officially say they are struggling to adapt in the post Tom Brady era for them. They're really, really having a tough time getting it done. I think, people are like, oh, don't doubt Belichick, give it time. We are now 3 seasons into no Tom Brady, and they have just not really been able to get the same results they were with him. And that's okay, right? I mean, that's what happens when you move off of arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. Bill keeps them competitive, but staying competitive isn't enough, especially when you're in a division like this where everybody is doing everything they can to get better as quickly as possible. And so, win totals: Patriots above 7.5. Oh,
these lines are hard.
These are all 4 of these are really tough, man. I'm gonna say that the Patriots will get over 7.5 wins, though. I don't know where those wins are going to come from in division. I think they'll be able to get it.
They'll still, man. I'm gonna go under because of their division. I just cannot see them winning more than maybe 2 division games this year. I don't know. I just can't see it. So that's kind of where my math comes from. But Miami at 9.5, I'm gonna go with under. I don't think Miami's going to be as good as they were last year. I think teams will start to figure them out a little bit more. They'll do different things to how they're playing against Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and they'll force them to run the ball more, which might work, but it's harder to win a game when you can't hit those home runs and steal points.
Yeah, I'm going to take under for the Dolphins as well. Tua's health is a huge question mark for me, and I do agree with you too that I don't think they're going to have that same element of surprise. But they will have the speed, so we'll see what comes of that.
They will have the speed, and speed kills. The Jets, I'm going to go over, and I can't wait to watch Hard Knocks, and I can't wait to see it all develop. But I think they go
3 weeks away, by the way, August 8th, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're a betting man, okay, this is, to me, one of the best bets you can make preseason if you're an over-under guy on season win totals, because the New York Jets won 7 games last year with Flacco, Zach Wilson, and Mike White playing quarterback. They now
Mike White was the best of the 3 of them.
Yeah, they now have Aaron Rodgers with the same roster, essentially the same schedule, the same defense, the same coach, and keep in mind, now paired up with the OC that he won back-to-back MVPs with.
Yeah.
And you think they're not going to win, 2.5 more games? You don't think that, like, they could have won 10 games last year with the situation they had going on. Like, to me, that's crazy. But
yeah, I mean, you see how they lost a couple of those games. The Lions game comes top of mind.
They do have a tough-ass out-of-division schedule, I will say.
But I think they'll rise to the occasion. I mean, the whole AFC is a bloodbath, right? So at some point, you can't make excuses for strength of schedule. You just got to say, hey, you're either going to do it or you're not. So I'm going to take over for the Jets. Bills, I also have pause with, but do I think they're going to regress from going for a 13/14 win team down to being under 10 wins? Yeah, I think I'll take over here. I think 11-12 wins sounds about right for them because, again, from a personnel standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, they really didn't take any steps back. I'm just curious if, trying the same formula for the 4th year in a row really is, what it's going to take for them to be a Super Bowl contender. So that's kind of where I'm concerned, but I still think 11 wins is 100% in the realm of possibility for him. I'm going to go over on the Bills.
I think it's possible as well, but I'm going to go under. I just, again, to me, strength of schedule, this division is not a walk in the park at times like it was last year, especially early on. Buffalo just ran through teams. I don't see them coming out of the gates and doing that this year. And Josh Allen, the more they've shown of Josh Allen, the easier it is to prepare for them. Like you said, the element of surprise is gone. His running game, that whole thing is going to look different. And part of me just thinks Madden curse, dude. Listen, it's cliche, but I just don't see how Buffalo wins more than 10
It's legit,
games.
man.
With the schedule they have, it's tough.
Look, I was not a believer in the Madden curse, and then I literally went back 20 years and looked at just about every single one of those guys and the teams, and sure enough, like, you know, you can't argue with the numbers. They don't lie. So that was legit for the most part. Very few players came out of that unscathed. So yeah, I'm definitely concerned about it. But anyways, that's a wrap up for the AFC East. I'm very excited about this division. Where do you think that the standings are going to end up at the end of the season?
Oh man, this is the hardest one we've done yet. We've done the AFC North. We've done the.
I think AFC North was harder. Personally.
AFC North and NFC North. We've already done. Go check those out if you haven't seen them yet. Man, I'm gonna go with the Jets winning this division.
Okay.
So they're the top dogs. I'm gonna put the Bills at the second spot.
Okay, I think we're about to have the same picks.
With Miami close behind.
Yep. And Pats last.
And the Pats will be last.
I have the exact same standings in my head. So
it's crazy it sounds crazy like the New York Jets winning this division because it just hasn't felt like a real possibility in forever. But Aaron Rodgers is in town, man. And he's thinking Super Bowl. They're thinking Super Bowl. And in order to win the Super Bowl, you got to start with probably winning your division. That's the first step. So I don't know though. Josh Allen is Superman, and I've been a big believer in Josh Allen the last few years, and he's definitely done some amazing things.
Both of those games, man. Both of those division games against those two teams are going to be freaking.
Interestingly enough, John, I think that, and this is weird, but I think it's true. I think the Bills match up better against the Jets than they do against Miami or New England. So I could see the Bills sweeping the Jets and still losing to them overall in the division, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
because I could see Miami beating. I could see Miami beating the Bills twice. I could see New England stealing one or two from the Bills, and I think the Bills lose to teams that can just flat out run the ball, which they play a lot of this year. So I don't know. It just that Jets defense makes me think that they're going to hold on and win some of those closer out of division games, and the Bills will struggle in some of those.
Right.
So it'll come down to your out of division schedule, and I think that the Jets will do better with theirs than Buffalo.